4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow in Pit Lane's weekly motorsport chat session, a little weekly get-together where we talk about what's happening in the world of local and international motorsport, and lots of stuff happening in motorsport. Of course, last weekend, the Canadian Grand Prix, but this weekend, it's all coming, the big one. The annual Le Mans 24-hour 24 Heures du Mans will be getting underway. The first practice session gets underway at 10 o'clock local time tonight. Coverage on Stan and on the WEC app starts at around quarter to 10 tonight. So we'll be well and truly out by then, but we'll be talking about that. There's a few Australians involved, one in particular with a very, very good chance of winning outright as well. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also talk about a little bit about Mr. Van Gisbergen, who did very, very well once again over in NASCAR and is getting an awful lot of hype over there. He's becoming flavour of the month. And at the moment, I mean, all the movement is one way at the moment with the Supercar guys heading over there. Cam Waters and Will Brown didn't do quite as well, but they certainly did enough to impress a few people over there at Sonoma. But the rumours are growing that we'll get some traffic the other way at the end of the year, with rumours growing that Kyle Busch is going to possibly be out here for a wild card entry at the Adelaide 500 at the end of the year. So that's coming up possibly towards the end of the year, and more American drivers and more American, particularly media, are taking a real interest in supercars in light of the fact how Shane is dominating over there. As one journalist said, lightning in a bottle. I think he said the most gifted natural talent he'd seen in 40 years of covering NASCAR. So he's getting the boy's getting rave reviews. Speaking of rave reviews, we got a group of people who get rave reviews every time they join us. We've got Doc, we've got Pete, we've got Richard, we've got Mark, and we've got Chris. Evening all, welcome to the show, and let's start with first of all, Mark. We'll see if we've got these audio from you at this stage. Keep our fingers crossed. Mark Jones in Queensland, are you there?
I hope I am.
Oh my God, he's here.
And you're hot. Just turn the volume down.
No, don't touch it. No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't touch anything.
He's damn hot.
Don't tempt fate. Don't tempt fate.
No.
Now we've lost him again now.
No, he's playing funny buggers, I think, isn't
he? No.
Yeah. He is.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm still here.
This is good. Speaking of still here, Max Verstappen's still here, and he's still winning races. The Canadian Grand Prix on the weekend, a pretty good race. It's the old saying, just add water and stir. So, Pete, you probably stayed up and watched it live. What did you think of it all?
I thought it was a good race. Interesting that I think Montreal is a similar circuit to Melbourne, and in actual fact, Daniel qualified well in Melbourne. It was only that he exceeded track limits that he got his lap time deleted. So I think, it was a similar situation to Melbourne. The car was a similar situation in that the circuit was similar, and I think that's why he did well. He didn't fluff the start again, but he got up, and he got up into the points. So,
yeah, he also copped a bit of a backhander from Jacques Villeneuve as well, who got in. So, and they've continued on about that because Daniel fired back and decided that he wasn't really going to take it from Jacques, and Jacques is sort of now Jacques is answering back and saying, "Oh, he didn't have to make it personal." I mean, sort of saying that you had no place in Formula One and you should have. Couldn't understand why he was even there in the first place.
Let's go a little bit of background there. I don't think Villeneuve is a big fan of Australians anyway. He had a girl that he was down here quite friendly with at one stage many moons ago, and that didn't end well. And maybe you should keep. I'll just, as an overview, I reckon there is more opinions this week than news. It's in across the bloody media. It's ridiculous. Everyone has an opinion or something to say on any particular subject. It doesn't have to be Australian drivers. But yeah, Mr. Villeneuve, I think even Mr. Brundle had decided to, they called it waded into the subject as well too with the Villeneuve Ricardo. So just make some
But I do,
calls and not make it personal yourself in the first place.
I do think, judging by Daniel's reaction, I do think the pressure is getting to him because he's normally all smiley and Mr. Nice Guy, and so I do think the pressure is getting to him.
Yeah, it certainly looks like, and he said it himself. He said that he's hoping to keep, he's hoping to keep that chip on his shoulder for the next round, and he needs to, he probably needs to fire up a bit, and he's determined to prove people wrong. So
He has
yeah,
been
let's see
willing
how it
to
goes.
front up some airfares and some hotel rooms for Jacques Villeneuve to attend the next few races to fire him up.
Yeah, well, perhaps that's what he needs. Perhaps like Jacques can be sort of his personal motivator. He's he can stand at the and abuse him in French or something like that. But
And if Jacques isn't available, I hear Dr. Marco is willing to say anything on the subject
To anyone.
Well, yeah.
and about anything.
Correct. About anyone do anything for any reason at all. That's all right. I think the new one is my lower third probably probably relates to it. Has anyone seen what Mr. Zach said today? He's decided to put his nose in. That's what I said. Everyone's got an opinion this week. It's not news. Zach wants to have a throw a flamethrower at Red Bull, and then Toto's agreed with him previously on this subject. And have anyone seen all the news on the job applications?
No.
Well, we talked about it. I think last week or something. That there's been quite a movement over from teams going from one person. Red Bull have lost a lot of staff.
Well, no, Zach's come out today and said that quote in this almost quote word for word that Red Bull is a toxic environment, and that he's had a lot of CVs come across his desk from Red Bull employees lately more than ever, and Toto said the same. So I decided.
I think they've said that before.
Zach's decided to come out and said Red Bull's a toxic environment, and he wouldn't be surprised that this is just the beginning, that a lot are going to leave. So I don't know whether he's just trying to stoke the fire and be a smart ass, which he's better than that if he wants to be, to stick to his
Well, I think there's obviously something in it, because they have lost they've lost quite a few people, particularly to Mercedes, and it would seem that there is some uncertainty about the direction that Red Bull are moving in, and there's some dissatisfaction with Christian Horner. There's a lot of stories going on behind the scenes that Christian is not the most popular boss at the moment, and there's also uncertainty about what direction they'll move in when Ford gets involved, because I think they're keeping their fingers crossed that goes all as smoothly as they'd hoped. But at the moment, I think that there's a few people who have been there a long time. I mean, obviously losing Adrian is going to be is the biggest blow. So
we'll get on to racing in a minute, but there's also the Ralph Schumacher bloody Gunther bloody spat this week as well too. That's what I'm saying. There's more crap going on. There's more rubbish going on, and opinions and spats and stuffing around going on than actually about the cars and the racing themselves. I mean, I decided to give you guys a post because it was fantastic over the last week and a half, all the teams getting back to the specifications of the car for 2026. Love to talk. You can talk about those for hours. Lucky Stilly's not on tonight. I'm sure he's already well versed and knows all the background information to a T. But yeah, it just seems a lot of the rubbish going on this week, and instead of the regulations or the cars or the racing or how good a race it was with a dash of H2O and coming up for the next race, there's just more rubbish going on in the media than anything else.
Well, getting back to the race itself, Pete. What about Lando Norris? I mean, Christian Horner throwing some shade out at McLaren, basically saying that it was, basically we were very lucky to win this one, and it was handed to us by pretty much what he was saying was, McLaren's strange strategy, and almost incompetence in when they pitted Lando. So what do you think about it all?
That's probably true, but then Red Bull had a slower than normal pit stop with Sergio at one point, I think. So
Well, there was a slower than normal driver in Sergio.
yeah.
But Pete, you'll be able to enlighten me on this. When did Lando and Oscar? There was a certain point for a few laps they were managed to turn those bloody tyres, switch them on to the optimum point. Those intermediates. What point? How many laps into it was that?
I think it was fairly early on.
Yeah, because they really apparently they switched those tyres on better than anyone else. They had them really running optimum.
Yeah, it was fairly early when it was starting to dry out. It was fairly early on when it was starting to dry out.
Well, there was maybe several laps consecutively that Piastri and Norris were swapping fastest laps back and forth.
Yeah.
That was when they were third and fourth at the time and hunting down the leaders. And
It'd be interesting to see how they go. I mean, Ferrari had a bad, but Mercedes sort of came back as well. So it's looking like the second half of the year is going to be considerably more entertaining than the first half was. I mean, it now seems we've got a genuine fight between Red Bull, McLaren, possibly Mercedes, and possibly Ferrari. Ferrari dropped the ball this time around, but you would imagine they will come back at some stage, and even Aston Martin on that once again, probably because of the nature of the circuit again. But Aston Martin had a bit of a return to form as well. So
Lance actually looked like a Formula One driver.
I suppose home.
Yeah,
I suppose home venue helps with the motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. And he's not a bad. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's not the worst driver in the world. He's far from the best. He wouldn't have got in there, obviously, without Dad's money. But at the same time, he hasn't sort of totally shamed himself or anything like that. It's not as if he's running around seconds off the pace and he's crashing at every 5 minutes. He's been pretty reliable, and he's making. I think he's got. I think amongst his fellow drivers, I think he's even respected in a way. I think a lot of them have grown to respect him, and that he's done it.
Keeps out of their way. Did anyone see a subpar media outlet? There was only one that reported it, that Mr. Esteban was going around and pretty much quietly saying that. Well, unless Saints jumps him, and because everyone's saying that Saints is going to go to the Audi outfit, Sauber as it's known now, but he said he's got the Williams seat, and he's pretty confident about it, I heard. So it'll be let's see how that plays out.
That makes a bit of sense because they have Mercedes engines, and Toto Wolff is Esteban Ocon's manager, so that makes a bit of sense.
Which pretty much plays it out. So unless the ones that have got the seats already where they are, they stay put. If those two go to that particular outfit, and we'll just have to.
But then you've got someone like Peter Windsor, who's very well connected, and all. They're saying on his podcast yesterday that he was fairly sure that Sainz will end up at Williams.
And that's the word. That's the general word.
Well, there's another one. General Word seriously says Sainz is going to Audi because he reckons it's going to be the quicker package.
Well, that was always what was assumed because of the connection with the family connection with his father. But some people are sort of as I said, Peter Windsor is saying that the word around Canada was that he was definitely. That he was probably the favourite to move to Williams, in which case, who would go to Audi Sauber instead to join Hulkenberg there, and So we'll have to see about that. Also, the other interesting thing is, I don't know if you saw the chaos of the weekend. It's probably been the most controversial Grand Prix that we've seen run for probably since the cancellation of Melbourne, all those years ago.
Oh yeah, I
But
saw that.
it was an absolute dog's breakfast, particularly Friday, where
Ooh.
just basically everybody got to the gates to come in, and found a line of police who said, no, it's not on today. It's been cancelled. Weather, wet. It's gone. Go home. They wouldn't even let them get on the trains. They went to catch the trains to the track, and they were told, no, it's all been cancelled. It's all off. It's too wet. Go home. The problem was it wasn't cancelled at all. They ran the free both free practice sessions. So that was wonderful.
How did
The
that
word on
happen?
the street is with all that carry on, like you said, though, is that they've got more their version of the Australian Grand Prix Corporation over at Toronto. They got twice as much heat on as what the Australian guys had for what happened, especially with all the measures that have been asked to be put in place. So they're in deep trouble apparently.
Well, it wasn't just because it wasn't. That was the start of things, and things basically went downhill from there. There was also later on Kim Millman, who has a Formula One photographer, an Australian, has a very good YouTube channel. You should follow it out, where he goes around and sort of reports on his weekend following Formula One around, and was showing a whole bunch of general admission people who got in very, very early on the day in the rain, sat in the rain for about 4 or 5 hours, having got in a really good spot, and then they came and they put black plastic or black mesh up against them so they couldn't see anything, forcing them. No question, no reason was given as to why they weren't supposed to be there. Apparently there was no signs or anything. They'd been there on the Saturday, there was no problem. They got there on the Sunday for race day, and then suddenly someone came along and decided, no, this is too good a spot for you. You've got to move somewhere else, and they stopped them from seeing it. So that annoyed people. And then, of course, at the end of the day, they had what Melbourne had a couple of years ago. They had the crowd invasion, and they've been called to account for that as well. So yes, the corporate, their equivalent, the promoter is saying that in terms of Friday, they're saying that it was a failure of communication between the police, and it started. They said it started with the public transport system over there. That somebody had sent a message through to the public transport saying don't let anybody on the trains because the race has been cancelled. So they stopped people there. The police got the message that the race had been cancelled, so they stopped people from turning up. Meanwhile, inside the track, the promoters are sitting there going, "Where is everybody?"
Well, Jacques was late. He made mention of it. He was late because he caught the train in, and he said, "Oh, I've just arrived." And
well, if you think Formula One's got a problem, I've been watching a lot of Roland Garros the last 2 weeks, so it's slightly off topic, but it is relatable to what we're talking about. And I was watching it earlier on. I'm thinking, the crowds are a little bit quiet. There's a lot of spare seats there. It's early rounds. It just got worse and worse. It got into the quarterfinals and semifinals of not just the women's, but the men's. And I'm looking at stands, and I'm thinking, if you're at the Australian Open right now, you'd have 500,000 people over the 2 weeks. And every match is sold out. Every seat's taken. It is sardines. And Brett knows from obviously high witness accounts. Yeah, there's a few spare seats earlier on in the pieces in the first week or that. But it's crazy. Everyone wants a seat, especially for these matches. So I'm watching Roland Garros. I'm watching the main courts. And there's spare seats everywhere. And then I looked into it and did some Googling and then deep dived a bit and researched it. They have huge problems with crowds over there. So they're having to ban people. They are doing stupid things to players and it's a rowdy behaviour. There's fights going on. There's drunkenness. There's being stuff thrown at players, and there's spitting at players as well too. A bit like we're talking about the footy. They are absolutely ridiculous over there, the crowd, and they need to pull their head in. And so what they do is they just put these huge restrictive measures on the participants, on people and tickets and stuff like that, and no one goes to the tennis over there anymore. And it's a grand slam.
Yeah, they've always had a problem with the crowds at Rolling and French crowds in general. I mean, they go pretty crazy. And they'll be going crazy this weekend. Although at Le Mans, I mean, the problem is usually the British fans who are the ones going crazy over there. Let's just say hello to everybody who's joining us as well. We're a bit late on this. Yes, good day to boys. Bonjour,
Bonjour.
bonjour, monsieur. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? We've got Paul is with us as evening all. Good day to Paul. Andrew said, good to see SVG success in NASCAR. You will get on to that. His burnout trailing Austin Hill. Yes, that's in terms of we heard about Ricardo versus Villeneuve in the SVG versus Austin Hill. It was a victory in straight set 6-love to SVG. It was he absolutely.
I warn Austin Hill, don't try payback. It won't work.
No, it didn't go down well for him.
Apparently, Shane wrote Austin Hill's name on all of his rear tires.
he played him well there. It certainly put him on, and I think that a lot of the Americans, it's as I said, it's just given him so much respect over there. I was watching one of the NASCAR official programs on Fox over there, and the journalist there was saying, I mean, they're saying for a start, they're saying there's still plenty of road courses to go in the Xfinity Series, and they're just saying, well, he could end up just winning all of them. They're now saying that he is a genuine chance to actually end up winning the title, because they've got like the playoff. So there's a couple of road courses there as well, and they said, we think he could possibly move through, and if he starts, as I said, once he figures out, and he's not that far off it, once he's figured out and starts winning on the how to win on an oval, as the guy said, he said lightning in a bottle. He said the best talent he's seen, in or out of anywhere, and
I have to disagree with that a little bit, because he's not an overnight success, and he's not the best because he's honed a lot of skills and been racing in Australia in cars in tin tops for a long, long time, and obviously diversified back in New Zealand and done a little bit over here. So he's just gone over there and he's just rejigging himself to a different style of racing, a different car, but he's got the basics and he's had them for years and years and years. So I don't agree with the Americans saying he's an overnight success just because he's adapted very quickly to it. He's had obviously a great skill set for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just such a tone. I mean, you know what Americans are like. I mean, the rest of the world simply doesn't exist, and suddenly these guys come up. Well, I think it said, like, no offense, but the young guy was talking to a few weeks ago on his podcast over there, who said, he said, I'd never even heard of Auckland, New Zealand. I didn't even know. I knew there was a New Zealand, but I knew nothing. I knew nothing about supercars. I knew nothing about Shane Van Gisbergen or New Zealand and all the rest of it. And suddenly this guy comes in and wins. And now there's a whole bunch of Americans who are now going, wow, we got to have a look at these supercars things, because and then Will Brown gets there, and in his first practice session at Sonoma comes up and gets third on the timesheets. And they're starting to go, whoa, hang on a second.
These guys know how to race these cars too.
Another one.
Well, not They just obviously they can adapt very, very quickly. It's be funny, but as you said earlier, as you mentioned, it's if a couple of them want to come over here and throw some rubber down, it'd be interesting to see how well they adapt to our cars. Because I mean, a lot of Europeans have come across.
You say that.
Yeah, a lot of Europeans have come across, and they.
Why are they? I'm just going to say, Doug, why are they so surprised? Doesn't anyone remember that race at Montreal when they brought out the NASCARs? Marcus Ambrose was there. It started pouring rain. Well, the NASCAR drivers, to a man, were all over the shop. I was in tears laughing at the driving. And Marcus was over 30 seconds a lap faster than
he put his floaties on
of the track, a third of the grid. Even the fastest ones weren't within 10 or 15 seconds of him. And
Jim Richards did the same in Japan. Remember, they had that Winston West race in Japan, and they ran it at Fuji, and they ran it in the way. And sort of, I think
on the front row.
Yeah, and Jim was because they just did at that stage they didn't run. Now the interesting thing is, it was at that point that they started to say, well, perhaps we could at least on road courses run in the rain. Well, just recently they actually started an oval race in the rain because it wasn't that the rain was
I
sort
refuse
of
to believe
finishing,
that.
and they went out in the rain and ran and it wasn't a disaster. Everybody was well behaved. It was they did about 10 or 12 laps and then it started to dry out and they came in, changed tires and went back out and it was fine. But they're not as nervous about it and as they used to, certainly as they used to be. But congratulations to Shane. So that's another win, and of course Chicago's coming up. Construction of the Chicago Street Circuit is underway already, so we'll see in a couple of weeks. That'll be run again, and he's certainly got a big chance of taking another win there in the main event. So good luck to him, and hopefully Will Brown will be back again, and Cam Waters as well. Cam didn't have quite the success, but he did fairly well. But coming back, he made up about 20 places through the field after qualifying badly, after having some problems, and then he got involved in an incident, and that eventually took him out of the race. But
10-12,
apart from that, they acquitted themselves quite well, and I think that there'll be more American teams sort of looking at the talent down here and and seeing who might be available. So got there as Jimmy's saying, the USA drivers.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
and the viewers too, the fans saying, "Oh, we should look at these supercars." They'll be very disappointed with how regulated it is, I think.
Well, I think that was one of the things Peter Adderton said on that podcast last week. He just said that he said it's so sanitized over here. He said, and that's what Shane's been enjoying. He said, we can lean on each other. He said, if there's half a gap there, and we can sort of lean up against someone and force them a bit wide, well then so be it. And if I run you off, well you come back and you try and run me off, and as long as you're not deliberately putting people into a wall somewhere. It's much much more.
Well, you imagine if Shane had pulled that stunt at Eastern Creek, that he did on Austin Hill.
James Taylor will be on the thing.
That's what he said. He said I wouldn't have got away with that. And he said at the previous race on one of the podcasts, somebody asked him about a particular pass, and he said, "Well, if I did that in Australia," he said, "at minimum, he said I would have got a drive-through penalty." He said, "At worst, he said I could have got suspended for a round or something." He said, "But he said
no." Oh, and we've lost Brett.
He drops out every now and again. He just needs a bathroom break or something like that, or a rest break. Anyway, we're probably we'll touch on because we have to cut to a chase as well though too. So here he's coming back. Mark, so what have we got going up in there in Queensland? Did you have a look at those karts as well though too? I was mentioning about Ipswich coming up from later in the month. Are you involved?
No, not at present. Not at present. I mean, I'm not involved at all at the moment. Although I'm getting a bit fired up for the revival of the Fight in the Night, which was cancelled a week or so ago, but now the Fight in the Night is back on again for production cars.
So for everyone listening, what does that? What's the Fight in the Night? What's it about? What courses are there? Why is it called that? And how many laps and what time? And
it's a typical Saturday night at Fortitude Valley.
That's what. The Victory Hotel does have a certain reputation on a Friday. No.
Wasn't that windy a couple of weeks ago, Brett? We saw a Fight in the Night anyway. Yeah.
No, the Fight in the Night, of course, is the traditional night race that is held for the production cars on the Australian Production Car Championship. Every time they visit Queensland Raceway, they have a Saturday night race that runs well into the evening, about a 3 to 4 hour race. It's a proper co-driver race and everything, and it's been it's over a decade old now. The old Fight in the Night. We've had some absolutely brilliant races. Queensland Raceway is a really good racetrack to race on. I mean, of course, it's always had its criticisms as being a relatively boring circuit, but it's not it with four prime overtaking zones on each lap. It's a great circuit to race on, and so if and that's made it a excellent venue for a production car endurance race. And they've built up this Fight in the Night race. They even held it during the COVID lockdowns. We had a Queensland focused version of the Fight in the Night race. So it's, but unfortunately, it was one of the casualties a week or so ago when the decision was made to condense the two Queensland Raceway rounds of the Shannon Speed Series into a single event, and there were the production cars and another category. It's not coming into my head right at the moment. Where basically had their rounds cancelled as part of the consolidation of the two events onto a single program. But with the Australian Production Car Championship does have, the Australian Production Car Series. Some guys in Melbourne get a bit, finicky about the terminology there. But yeah, the there's quite a hub for production car racing here in Queensland. There's quite a lot of teams here, like here and Sydney tend to be the two centres of production car racing, and so we're very much looking forward to having the Fight in the Night back on again.
The interesting thing is, as you say, they cancelled, or as you say, they merged the two races together. But they also, I think it was, I'm not sure if we talked about it last week or whether it happened afterwards. After we were off the air, that they also announced that the Bathurst International won't be coming back. Won't be coming back after this year's event. It was supposedly the big showcase event for TCR and hopefully for S5000 and for all those ARG categories, Trans Am and all the rest of it. They've now announced that this will be the last one. The TCR World Tour thing, certainly dropped out. They're not coming back, and they seem to be struggling in general. They had a round in America over the weekend, I think it was, and they didn't have much of a field for that. It's probably way too close to Macau, and that was one of the reasons why they wanted to move. They wanted to move out of there because Macau is obviously their big race for the year, and they decided that they really couldn't do both. So that was the end of the TCR World Tour. And once that was announced that it was gone, it was like, well, we don't probably no point running this anymore because let's face it, even with the World Tour last year, nobody turned up as far as spectators concerned. The place was deserted.
There's also a call because obviously it's one of the 5 approved events that are allowed without going into all the politics of it. There's even a bit of a quiet call on. Even though don't replace it with anything for the time being. Just leave it as a one extra spare event that can be held, but for the time being, just sit on your hands for a little bit and just leave it, and don't try and replace something straight away because you've got an extra weekend to be applied. So I think that's probably a good thing. Don't rush into anything else. There's a couple of other events that are allowed on the circuit to be used throughout the year that aren't included in those special circumstances ones. So I think, that's probably a good call. Don't have to try and replace it with something the following year and as a throw together. I think just sit on your hands for a little bit. Especially there was another one mentioned about Motorsport Australia and losing so many dollars and so forth as well too, which may have been had something to do with the outright as well.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we remember that it's not run by ARG anymore. It is run by Motorsport Australia, and they are doing it on the cheap. I mean, that was part of the reason for consolidating the commentary and the team and everybody in Melbourne rather than sort of flying people to Adelaide. Although they ended up flying two of the Adelaide people to Melbourne, but which seemed fairly silly, but. It means that they didn't have to take all of that infrastructure along with them. It was far easier to do it now with the technology they've got now. It's very simple to just have your cameras on the. You don't even have to send an OB kit there anymore. You just get the cameras to send back via SRT or NDI, probably SRT. Now you have them to send it back to the as individual cameras to the control room in Melbourne. And it basically works exactly the same as as we did the last show outside of the studio. I mean, we did it. It was in the same building, but technically we could have done that from anywhere in Australia or indeed anywhere in the world, and had to go straight into the RMIT control room. And the fact they've done that,
I was a little bit annoyed that they cancelled our Service Paradise our last show, didn't they? And we were supposed to do it from the Boulevard up there, and it didn't sort of happen. But I think we missed our flights, didn't we, Brett? We couldn't get up there in time, so we just thought, we'll hack it together in Swanson Street instead. It turned out all right. Service Paradise, it might have been a bit. We would have been in t-shirts and shorts.
I wish you'd told me that you. I wish you told me that you weren't coming. I mean, I was sitting there waiting for us.
Oh, you had t-shirts ready for us, didn't you? That's right. I forgot that for the t-shirts.
Yeah, it was a bit like the A1 Grand Prix situation. I mean, the t-shirts were printed, but the event never happened.
Well, it was. Truth be told, it was exactly the same t-shirts.
Yes,
It's been blotted out.
I still have my A1 Grand Prix surfer Gold Coast.
That'll be worth money, Brett, one day.
Yes.
Mark, what
About
worries
50
me?
years' time.
What really worries me though, Mark, is you had my size was small and Brett's was medium, and they're just not the right.
Yeah. And, probably the first time you washed it, the texter that had in pit lane is A1 would have washed off.
Yes, it did.
Did you get the gold? Did you get that gold texture or the silver one you could buy back when you were in school?
It was. Black.
Well, of course, there's that. What's that feat? I'm really struggling for this. You remember there were the bikini girls who were the golden
meter
maids. There you go. Yep. They helped me out with the gold pens to go with the gold bikinis.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? And the blue bikinis they
give
used
you
to wear
gold
as well.
hot pants, did they?
Dogfish. Brett's put up a graphic from Dogfish down here. I think he's gone all ecological on us, a little bit to climate change, because he said he sounds like he's photosynthesis, which is that's basically a plant with interacting with the sun. But anyway,
I've been called a vegetable.
Nothing.
Are you saying that Brett's taken root in the studio?
We're not going to go there. There's a few things I could say.
Richard, let's not talk about old times, eh?
Well, they were old times.
Exactly. Anyway, that's all right. Mark, just hang on to those t-shirts. Please don't wash them for us, and we'll try and do them for the Boulevard.
Well, we did years ago. We were going because we were on, because as I said, I went up to 1 year. I was up at the Gold Coast Indy, and all these people were, saying, "Oh, hi, like in pit lane," and it was like, "Oh, lots of Melbourne people up here," and they went, No, we watch every Friday night on Bris 31. We had no idea it was, but the problem was, not only did we not know that it was on every Friday night on Bris 31, what we didn't know, and what I shut down very quickly, is that because they weren't exactly sticking to the regulations there at the time, and they were allowing sponsorship, and they basically repackaged it. They were taking the show, but they basically put a new start on it, and someone sent me a copy and said, "Oh, here's what it looks like in Queensland," and it was like Welcome to Sid Chrome's In Pit Lane, brought to you by Sid Chrome. And now there was Sid Chrome blowers everywhere. And it's like, whoa, hang on, we're getting none of this.
Did they change the graphics too? And it weren't Brett Ramsey anymore. It was probably Brandon Photosynthesis up in Queensland.
It certainly put a spanner in the works.
Oh, good, Mark. Well done.
What I was trying to organise, and we were fairly close to making it happen, was actually doing a show from Brisbane at once, coming up and doing a show, one of the shows from Brisbane, and doing it from there was, I don't know if I imagine it's still there. It might have been flooded away at some stage, but there was like an amphitheatre at the down on the river on that. What do they call it?
South Bank.
South Bank.
Yeah, don't be stupid. Do it from the 4X Brewery.
Listen.
That's on the river.
If we were doing it, it wouldn't be just from the 4X. Bundaberg, perhaps.
Bundy, yeah.
The 4X.
Different river.
Not a chance.
You can't see the river from the 4X Brewery anyway. There's the elevated railway that runs to Lang Park there. In the way,
so he's going to the front. But see, we've turned into a warm-up act for.
We can pick up the money on that.
Parr and the team at the
I was going to say, I've got it on the background here. Yeah, we were a warm-up act for bloody Sam, Andy, and Mickey.
Mick, yeah.
Who could forget Sam Newman turning up to In Pit Lane?
Oh yeah,
Does he remember it?
Thanks, Jeremy, for that. Yeah, first lady. Thanks for the donation again too. Thanks, appreciate that.
In the AFL in the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple of first place salutes as well too. Marley and Pickett from Richmond Tigers 2 weeks ago gave the crowd told them that they were number one, they were the best in the world. And also on the weekend just gone, I think Liam, a little West Coast player, he gave someone the bird as well too, saying there seems to be something flying over the top there. So
and on Monday, a Melbourne
player, a revival.
On Monday, a Melbourne player gave a Collingwood player the bird.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. Sorry, it was Pickett. Sorry, Pickett gave the Collingwood. Yeah, and anyone who criticises, just quickly, what's his name, Petrarca, for playing an extra quarter, and he came out after his operation and defended the doctors and the club and saying, because everyone was saying, why did the club let him go out there and play another quarter after he had a lacerated spleen and also a broken ribs and a punctured lung? About, I think it was 2018, I got crunched in a going up for a thing, broke 2 ribs on one side, 1 rib in the other, and I was going in for an operation next day to get my titanium rod taken out of my leg. I got 3 broken ribs, still played out the whole 3 quarters of the game afterwards, and got operated on the following day. And I didn't tell them about
in the snow.
Yes.
We lived
in holding ground.
When you got broken ribs, you just keep playing footy. There's nothing wrong with keep playing football with broken ribs. Everyone does it. Anyway.
As it turned out, they didn't so much remove the titanium rod from you; they just repositioned it for the next injury.
Well done, Mark.
To get better reception.
Yes.
Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill, new rivalry. That could well follow through. That's going to be the thing. I mean, I can see lots of people having rivalries with Shane. I mean, because let's say Shane enjoys a bit of a blue every now and again, so he's not going to back down. I think he's really set himself up, at least for the next 5 years at least, that he's going to be very much in demand from a lot of the top teams to move up into the main game. I would imagine next year they'll be trying to get him a full-time drive next year. Somebody will definitely, if it's not Trackhouse, who he's running with now, it'll be one of the other teams will be there desperately wanting him to get on board, because he's great value for them. Believe it or not, as a media person, and that's one of the things that And he said himself, he said that he's feeling a lot more comfortable. He said, because he said, I can just talk comfortably now. He said, I'm not going to have people, like Supercars, ringing me up and saying, oh my God, what did you say that for? Or, oh no, you said the wrong thing there. It's like he just feels far more comfortable in getting up there and chatting with people and having a bit of fun and telling.
Let's just see how far the boundary line is, though. There'll be a certain point when they're going to say, you've thrown the ball out deliberately. We're going to have to toss it back in, and this is going to be the free kick. So I think he's got probably a free license at the moment. He's a newbie. He's making the sun doesn't shine in different places for a lot of people, and I reckon, you'll push someone's button one day. Because remember, as you said, Brett, those Americans, they're a law unto themselves. I mean, I was going to bring up earlier. I know that there was a certain Biden that got prosecuted this week for being allowed to buy a particular rifle or gun or whatever it may be for under the influence. But as far as I'm concerned, it was something to do with drugs. Isn't alcohol a drug too? And every bloody Tom, Dick and Harry over there in America is bloody pissed off their bloody mute and goes and buys guns all the time. And the last I checked, alcohol is a drug as well too. So this must be an exempt in that particular law.
I think we'll find that in the next few years, social media will be considered a drug.
Well,
it is.
We know people are addicted to it. So.
It is, and 16-year-olds and younger in Australia are going to be banned soon. It'll be only a matter of time, I think.
Well, they'll all be AI. They're going to have an AI Brett.
Oh, well, what you're talking about Bacchus Marsh Grammar today?
I'd wondered about that. The rugby ball. I wondered if he kicked. I didn't see it anywhere. So what the rugby ball?
Yeah, he kicked it. It went off to the side of his boot a bit.
Oh right, okay. So he
didn't quite make it. Made it into the pits.
Oh well, there was something. So never mind. Hill's not liked. The fans love. Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, Giz is just incredibly popular at the moment. Just everybody loves him. I mean, one of the female journalists in there just said, "Oh yeah, he's just fired up she said, I'm not interested remotely, never been interested at all in the Xfinity series. It's where the next generation comes from. Until they make it, never taken any notice of it. Suddenly this guy's in the Xfinity series." And she said, "I'm just watching every single round just to see what he's doing." So he's really set himself up for life.
Speaking of female journalists, respected, I was journal surfing on Saturday afternoon, had a bit of free time for 5 minutes. Was down here in Melbourne, and probably Sydney was worse, so my sympathy is there. You do have my empathy up there, but it was probably sunshine and rainbows and puppy dogs up there with Mark Jones in Queensland, because it always is every day. They tell us it's perfect. There you go, got the thumbs up. I was channel surfing, getting back to it. Miss Kate Peck was doing some motocross on SBS on the weekend, which I deliberately channel surfed to find out when's that on, or it was on Speed Week or whatever it was. Must catch up with her one day. Never met her, but she's lovely and done a lot of motorsport, and she is a outright good damn hard rider on a motorbike as well too. She got a bike herself, always has, and has got a passion for it. And on motorbikes, saw some of them the MX stuff that they've been doing every couple of weeks on Speed Week, and that's good. The other thing I picked up on as well though too, coming up through the ranks, is not your traditional Yammies and Quackers and all those sorts of stuff type bikes. Those gas ones are actually going really good, and they're coming. And there's a lot of riders that are jumping on board. I was watching, I think, at the MX80s series, and I think in the top 10 bikes, there were 8 out of 10 of them were gas, which leads me on to a quick MotoGP roundup.
Well, hang on a second.
He's going to do it.
If you're gonna have a MotoGP,
it's only got 15 seconds. Oh no!
He's got
graphics.
Oh, far out. Too much spare time.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for Doc's MotoGP segment.
I'm on a run flat
back
tonight.
to-
I'm in
back
the
to it,
BMW. I'm on a run. Seriously, I'm totally deflated. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm cooked. No, just quickly. I'm not going to babble on. Isle of Man. Brett, I think Brett put up a little bit of stuff on Michael Dunlop during the week in pit lane. That was great to see. Incredible. I thought probably the biggest point that Michael made, or someone did for him, but he obviously did it for himself. But first of all, was he has won the Isle of Man 26 times, I think it is, approximately, but for 4 different manufacturers. So he's got some versatility there. Just quickly then, anyway, big news in the last 24 hours. Marc Marquez is now the factory rider with Pecco Bagnaia at Ducati next year. It was inevitable. It's finally the Connect 4 little yellow and red coins have fallen down the slots finally, and it's there. No word at the moment. Bagnaia has apparently congratulated Mark through the team. And quickly, on the ticker down the bottom there, thanks, Brett. You've already led us into the last bit as well, too, because I'm not going to babble on all night about MotoGP at the moment, is that Mr. Miller is still not performing, still not at his best, still expects more out of himself, and said he's not going to be signing a new contract for the time being with anyone or anything because he is not getting the results he wants. So until it's just like anything, you get a few points and get up the order a little bit and get on the list and get some stuff like that. He will obviously be able to negotiate more money and more time in the sport. But anyway, it looks like he might. He's touted to go to Gas, which might not be a bad thing because Pedro Acosta has got his seat next year, signed, sealed, and delivered.
It'll be interesting to see now. Of course, before we go, of course, coming up is this weekend, the biggest race in the world, the race that means an awful lot to me personally. The Le Mans 24-hour race gets underway. First practice session gets underway 10 o'clock Melbourne time. So just about another half hour or a bit over half an hour or so. Porsche certainly set the pace. Penske Porsche on the test day last Sunday. 3 out of the top 4 cars. Toyota have shown a bit of a return to form. Just an incredible turnout of hypercars and teams that could possibly win. Of course, Ferrari defending their title, and they'll be hoping to pull something off again. The Peugeots had their they weren't totally out of it either. Alpine are looking probably as disappointing as they are in Formula One at the moment. At Le Mans, they're certainly back in the pack with the ISO and also looking forward to seeing what Cadillac can do as well. So lots and lots of possibilities, and of course an Australian driver in one of those Porsches, in the Penske Porsche, in Matt Campbell.
Go Matt!
So Matt has had a fabulous year already. So this would be
2 pole positions in the first 3 races.
Yeah, and a victory at
Daytona. Don't worry,
Mark.
I'm gonna put our 5 cents in worth. Brett could attest to this. Obviously, I've known Matt since Asia Le Mans back over in South Australia a few years ago. Back up at the 12-hour, he wasn't really in the mood for talking to anyone, and Brett and I still got to interview him because he was, he respects it. So he really wasn't in the mood, was he, Brett? He was not. Didn't want to talk to too many people. He's avoiding the media a bit, but he still made a bit of time for us and put it aside. So good luck, Matt. We're big fans of him as well, too, and hope he goes well. And
speaking of friends of the show as well, another contender, a winner in class last year, but has moved from the Algarve Pro team to the Duquesne team, and that's James Allen, Melbourne driver, as a good friend of the show. So all the best to James as well, and also Yasha Shahin from South Australia, won in class last time around in the Spa race in GT3, and so good luck to him as well. Also, some Australians. Gas Walden got a last-minute call up, and also Callum Williams is going to be racing in the Road to Le Mans. Now, if you can't watch the main race, if you're not subscribing to Stan, or if you're not subscribing to the WEC app, then you can watch the Road to Le Mans, the Le Mans Cup Series races and the qualifying are live and free on YouTube.
Mark, Brett,
certainly,
when are they,
you can
buddy?
certainly watch them.
Guys, when are they?
I've got the
Yeah,
Schedule?
Saturday morning, and will be one of the run probably Friday. I think they never used to race at all on Friday, and I think they are now.
Right.
They're doing on most of the qualifying on Friday for the hype.
So that's
for
very
the
that's
Le
very
Mans
new.
cars,
Yeah,
and they're taking most of Saturday off.
all the years that we were there was absolutely nothing on Friday on the track. That was the day that that you basically went on your track walk, and they got people into the campgrounds and all the rest. You went on into the pit lane was open, and you could go in, and you couldn't see much because the place was packed, but they let people into pit lane. Then, of course, on the afternoon on the Friday, you've got the traditional drivers parade where they go into the town, and there's I think that the year that we were there, they said there was 180,000 turned up, and it certainly looked like it and sounded like it. It was absolute chaos, and it was great. It was great, but the whole town sort of turns up, and it's a huge party, just amazing atmosphere. So the Le Mans 24-hour race, really looking forward to this weekend. It's a very special race for more reasons than one. So I'm really looking forward to that. We'll talk about that next week as well. So good luck to everybody with that. And the weather is interesting because, as they say, Jason Statham says in the famous Audi Truth in 24-Hour documentary, it always rains at Le Mans, and it's going to again on Sunday.
Did you say that in the Transporter as well?
What's that?
Did you say it in the movie Transporter as well too?
Possibly.
That's one of his more famous.
Oh,
movies.
There we go. Paul's just come through with a bit of news. Yes, Noeline Donoghue has from Sylvania Waters. Their husband was, of course, a racing driver in
husband and son.
And son, yeah, they both raced.
Laurie and Michael.
They're Laurie and Michael. So and she was a very
very outspoken.
Very outspoken, very interesting, very probably Sylvania Waters really was way ahead of its time. It was sort of the first of those, the first of those reality shows, and probably showed a lot of the downside as well. Knowing a few people who have been a part of reality shows and knowing how far away they are from reality and how their lives were absolutely destroyed by
it was probably less edited at that stage, so they probably just ran the tape and they didn't cut it out in bits and pieces and twist people around as much. So it was probably just the one shot, let's do 20 minutes and bang, you didn't edit it much. So these days it's obviously they go in with a plot and it's all manufactured, and they even put the words into people's mouths.
Just to correct myself from before, qualifying and hyperpole for Le Mans 24-hour is on Thursday, not on Friday, as I made.
Once again, it's interesting because we've got practice. We've got practice coming up in about half an hour, and then we've got qualifying, and then there's another practice. In the past, they're starting practice earlier because practice traditionally always started at 6 o'clock on Wednesday night, their time. So it's 2 o'clock now. And then there were a couple of practice sessions, then qualifying. Well, now they've added hyperpole as well. Hyperpole wasn't a thing the last time I was there. It's only in the last few years they've done that, and that seems to be the focus now. It's like, let's just get qualifying out of the way nice and early, and then we'll concentrate on the television spectacle that is hyperpole, and we'll sort of pump that up. So
is that the close cousin to hippopotamus?
Hippopotamus with the Wi-Fi and
Party's heroes, But yeah, that's 8 p.m. in Parisian time. The hyperpole will take place. Qualifying is, I've got the thing on the screen here.
Schedule. Go, Mark.
Where is it?
Go, you statistician, you.
Oh, yeah. I've lost the qualifying session. Where is that? There's freak practice. Oh, yeah. Qualifying is on qualifying is
Australian Eastern
today.
Standard Time.
Yeah,
Australian
yeah. So well, tomorrow our time. I think it's about 2 a.m. our time. Tomorrow morning. So
7 p.m. to 7 p.m. in France is
our time. So it's
7 p.m.
So it's
French
a day.
time. I don't know how it converts.
Yeah,
to.
it's a day early. We're about about 10 hours ahead of them. So but qualifying was always was always late into the night on the Thursday night, because I remember that we'd always get there like sort of around. There was a practice session at 6. Then there was a gap of about 90 minutes, and then at 8 o'clock on the Thursday night, they would have a qualifying session, which it was a really long one too, because it would go through until nearly midnight. Because I know that you never left the track until after midnight on the Thursday night, and then of course everybody could sleep in on Friday. But Friday was always traditionally nothing on track, but a really, really big day for news. That's when all of the teams, all of the manufacturers, the ACO themselves usually have a major event, and it's like being at the United Nations. You go in there, you get the headphones with the instant translations, and the place is packed with journalists from all over the world speaking all sorts of languages. Probably 150, 160 journalists, sitting there getting the information about what's happening for the future of the race and for this year. And if there's going to be any big announcements, it'll be Friday their time during the day, probably sort of midday, mid-afternoon. So probably about this time.
Right. So on that, Brett, I've just done a bit of research for everyone, for us basic buggers like me. So it's 9:33 here in Melbourne right now, over in France. So all the announcements have been done for the day, because it's 1:33 p.m. on a Wednesday over there right now. So we're on the same day, give or take a KFC waffle burger with lots of maple syrup if you're in Australia, or a baguette with butter over there, give or take. I mean,
no. What it'll be, and what I will be having, as tradition dictates, the Crêpe de Grand Marnier. Although I won't be having the Grand Marnier, I had a look. I priced the Grand Marnier. This, I can't justify $40 for something to sprinkle on some crepe. So I'm because I don't actually like drinking the stuff all that much. It's a bit sweet. So I'll go with some orange juice, but I will get a little bottle of brandy and splash that around on some crepes with some orange juice, and that'll do.
Doc, did you just say it's like 1 p.m. over in France right
now? We are 9:34 p.m. here. And as Brett said, it was about 10 hours. And I've always understood, because like America's about 14 hours, France 10 hours. Because you go by that, because you forget about daylight savings time. Obviously, whatever in the world, it is 1:33 p.m. on the same day as we are, Wednesday now. So they are behind.
That means we've just missed the end of the 4-hour Volkswagen Fun Cup race.
Incidentally, the Fun Cup race, I'm really surprised that they run. I don't know whether they were streaming that, but hopefully coming up we'll have I can tell you a fascinating story about Fun Cup, because we were very, 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 very close.
You're still talking about racing here, aren't you?
Yeah, to having a car in the 25 Hours of Spa, an Australian car with in-pit lane sponsorship.
Yeah.
We were very close. We were very, very close to that. But there's a couple of Fun Cup cars.
I've got that
Greg Woodrow has a couple of the cars here in Australia, and we'll be doing a story. I've spoken to Greg already about that, trying to find some time to get around there and do some stories there, because he's brought a couple and he's trying to set up that series here down under, because it was very cheap. And we got sort of that close to sort of putting something together, and it was because it was ridiculously cheap to go over and do it, to basically buy a drive for 3 Australian drivers. And as I said, nearly came off. Lauren Gray was one of the drivers that was involved, that we were hoping to get her in. But anyway,
I haven't been totally as well, though, too. Before you go,
yeah,
I've been drumming up some more music as well for the show as well, too. So I haven't been asleep for the last week. I have been trying to catch up on it, but got some more music in the pipeline, I hope, as well, though, too.
Okay, well, speaking of music, the music at Le Mans is about to start. Unfortunately, we don't see the band. There's always got, I think, I forget who it is this year. There's always a big band on the Saturday night, put on a big concert. That's where I
Simple Minds.
Simple Minds, is it? Well, there you go. So don't you forget about me, and don't you forget about us coming back next week at Wednesday night at 8:30. Also, keep an eye out. Eventually, I've done nothing on. I've done no editing. I've done nothing. I'm trying to keep away. This is the first time I have sat in front of this computer when setting this up today. I want nothing to do with it. I will have nothing to do with it tomorrow, and I am on French time now, so enjoy the Le Mans 24-hour. I know that I will. It's a very. By the way, if you do nothing else this weekend, please, in the hours leading up to the start of the Le Mans race on Saturday night our time, tune over to Radio Le Mans. They always do their Roll of Honor. It's incredibly emotional. They're very. Yeah, it's an amazing. It's just an amazing piece of radio, and listen to that probably around 9 o'clock our time. But just listen to Radio Le Mans on Saturday night. Saturday night, 9 o'clock. The race starts at midnight our time. So so tune in to go to Radio Le Mans. The Radio Le Mans Studio Vision is on YouTube as well. So once again, if you can't watch the race live, there are some in-car cameras, and there is the Radio Le Mans Studio Vision, so you can have that flick. They'll all be doing it.
Yeah.
So Mark, we just got time to say hello. We must be going. Because we have Le Mans to go to, which, as I said, the 9:45 our time the telecast starts, and I imagine that the guys from Radio Le Mans are broadcasting already. So anyway, have a good weekend. We'll see you next week on Full Course Yellow. Until then, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you later. Bye, everybody.
Go, Matt. Go, James. Go.